The Power Rangers comics are soon going to finish their story because in this month of July they are going to publish the last 2 episodes that are missing, and it is about the story of the Darkest Hour. If you haven't seen this story yet, but you want to understand the end of Power Rangers, I'm going to show you the whole Darkest Hour story so you can be aware of it before watching the final episodes of Power Rangers comics. Several years ago, in Promethea, Matt began training to be the new Green Ranger. At first, he was a disaster because he didn't have the skills to fight, but after 6 months of intense training, he started to improve in battles. Promethea is a high-tech place, so they had the right tools to achieve effective training. One of these tools was a room with simulation to create unreal monsters so the new Green Ranger could train. After training with one of these monsters, Matt feels very tired and thinks he doesn't have what it takes to be the new Green Ranger. He feels he can't fill the void left by Tommy, but Grace explains to him that she didn't choose him for his abilities, but for his big heart. She also tells him that a long time ago she was also a ranger and almost her entire team died because of her. Sometimes people will get hurt and you're going to think it's your fault, but what you do in those moments when the world looks darker is what makes you a Power Ranger. In the present day, in the Bermuda Triangle, Rita is still doing the whole ritual to bring Dark Spectre back, while the Rangers try to stop her, but Matt won't let them. Grace is lying on the ground and the Rangers can't believe what they are seeing. They think Matt has murdered Grace and Billy has been very shocked by the news. It must be remembered that Matt is bewitched by Rita's wickedness, and even though the Rangers had destroyed the sword, apparently this didn't work to get Matt out of Rita's power. Billy begins to ask Matt if Grace is dead, while Tommy tries to calm him down and Matt begins to be afraid of what the Blue Ranger might do. Then, Billy loses control and starts attacking Matt with his gun, telling him to stay away from her. Rita continues with the ritual, while telling Vessel to look at what she is doing, which is using the Zeo crystal to complete the spell and bring back Dark Spectre. This dark power creates a black energy that covers the whole place and surrounds Vessel, which is going to be the body Dark Spectre is going to use to return. Rita thinks she is achieving her goal as she says she has accomplished the impossible, and this tells us that the ritual is about to be completed. The return of the darkest being is imminent, and this is going to have a huge impact on the entire universe. Rita allows Vessel to speak as she says that there are few triumphs without witnesses, but he claims her for what she has done as he knows this is pure evil and understands the danger the universe is in. Rita explains to him that she was granted unimaginable power and that is why she infected the Morphin grid to make Dark Spectre's return possible. In Safe Haven, the Omega Rangers continue to fight Rita's army, while Lord Zed continues to use the new Serpentera to try to find the witch in that place, but we obviously know she's not there. His desperation to find Rita is so intense that he doesn't mind hurting innocent people to accomplish his goal, but the Omega Rangers try to stop him. Kever is controlling his yellow Omega Zord and he doesn't know Lord Zed, so he doesn't understand why Serpentera isn't careful with the innocents. He then asks Zed to focus on destroying the gooey things, so he doesn't make the job harder for the Rangers. Kever is so confused that he asks Lord Zed what kind of Power Ranger he is, but then Serpentera flies away and this confuses Kever even more. Zack checks in with Kever to see how everything is going and then tells him that they're going to need a minute to be able to help them. This is because Zack and Trini must face off against the Death Ranger and Dane, both of whom think they are going to wipe out the Rangers. The battle begins and the villains are very confident. Meanwhile, Trini tries to communicate with Billy, but he does not respond. Obviously, the Blue Ranger does not listen to her because he lost control and is still attacking Matt, but Trini does not know what is happening. Both villains start attacking Zack, but Trini arrives at that moment to help him. Alpha 1 stands in front of Safe Haven's Master Arch saying that he has not failed Rita, as both arches will be theirs and they will show no mercy to their enemies. The Rangers continue to battle Matt, while Kimberly cries watching as the dark energy engulfs Grace. Matt then manages to push Billy away, but Tommy grabs the dagger from Matt and knocks him down. Tommy asks Matt to stop, but he tearfully replies that he should take Matt's life. Even though the Green Ranger is filled with Rita's dark energy, Matt's spirit is still there and is trying to resist this evil energy. Billy still can't control himself and the other Rangers must restrain him from attacking Matt. Meanwhile, Kimberly destroys the door to get into Rita's place, but Rita doesn't seem to care and welcomes her with sarcasm. In Safe Haven, the Master Arch begins to fill with energy, which means someone is going through the grid and Alpha thinks it's Rita. At that moment, Zack and Trini are thrown by the villains, who are also accompanied by 3 Wild Force Rangers who are turned into zombies by the Death Ranger. Then, the Arch's energy increases, and everyone is confused as they don't understand what is happening. Surprisingly, out of the portal come the Draken Rangers, which belong to the world of the Coinless, and in another video, we will tell their whole story. The Green Ranger is Draken, who is obviously the leader of the team. The Yellow Ranger is Trini, the Blue Ranger is Kia, the Black Ranger is Scorpina, and the Red Ranger is Bulk. Obviously, these Rangers belong to a different universe, the universe where Lord Draken comes from, and a lot of very crazy things have happened there. Even though they are led by Draken, these Rangers come to help stop Rita since Draken understands the danger that Dark Spectre represents. In the Bermuda Triangle, Rita easily drives the Yellow and Pink Rangers away, while Matt seizes that moment to escape. He then kneels before Rita and begs her forgiveness for being weak, but she uses him again to set a trap for the Rangers. With the dark power she begins to punish Matt so that he feels a lot of pain and then tells the Rangers that they have 2 choices. They can save Matt, or they can save the universe by trying to stop the ritual. In the dark power we can already see 2 bright red flashes, which tells us that Dark Spectre is coming. The Rangers think that Rita can kill Matt, so they make the decision to save him. They all run towards Rita together to make their attack and try to save Matt, but at that moment the beginning of the darkest hour occurs. Dark Spectre takes over Vessel's body and the dark energy spreads throughout the universe, across all timelines and the multiverse. Rangers from different times and in different places all perceive the dark energy that traverses time and space. We then see that Adam and Rocky have been left in bad shape, yet they are confused because they can't find the other Rangers. Apparently, the impact has been so big that it has affected everything around and we don't know what has happened to the other Rangers. Now, we can see that Vessel's body has changed, it is now red and no longer belongs to him, but to Dark Spectre. The ritual is completed, Dark Spectre tells Rita that he has done well, he also says that his new body is powerful and that this world now belongs to him. In this new episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 112 comic book, we can see that Billy wakes up in a strange place after the explosion drove them all out. With his glasses broken, he gets up from the ground, and when he recovers, he can notice that there is something strange. What Billy was seeing was something impressive, an energy with different colors in an empty space that was dark, and this energy was the only light. Billy tries to touch this energy that was apparently moving, and he hears a voice that reminds him of one of the most important rules of science. This voice was of a specter in the form of a young woman wearing red and tells Billy that the most important rule is to look, but not to touch. Then, this same woman confirms to Billy that this place is the Morphin grid and that she had a theory that this energy manifested differently for each person, but it does not. Billy quickly realizes that this woman is a young version of Grace Sterling, and we must remember that she was the first Red Ranger on Earth, even before Jason, so this is why she has a connection to the grid. Grace reconfirms to Billy that this is the grid, that it has no end, that it is everywhere, and that it is infected. Somewhere else, Trini and Zack are fighting Rita's soldiers and still don't understand what is going on. For now, they just know that there are too many soldiers, and they start to climb as high as they can to try to escape. Obviously, this doesn't work, and they reach a point where they have no escape, so they must keep fighting. They are both surprised as these soldiers are stronger and more resistant, but they don't give up and decide to keep fighting even though they think they have no chance of winning the fight. At that moment, an arrow pierces one of the enemies, and obviously this arrow is from the Pink Ranger, who appears next to Tommy through a crack in the sky. All the Rangers are confused as they don't know how they got to that place, but they all unite as one team to destroy all the enemies. It's like seeing the old mighty Morphin team united in battle again. Inside the grid, Grace explains to Billy that they are in a pocket dimension, but Billy still thinks this is impossible because Grace is dead. Billy then confirms that she is a program, and this program explains that the real Grace rebuilt the Master Ark on Earth by putting a trigger on it. This connected it to a transmitter she implanted in her own brain, and when she died, the transmitter sent a signal to the Master Ark to push Billy to safety. At the other location, the Rangers managed to destroy all the enemies, but even though Trini and Zack are very close, Kimberly and Tommy are still estranged. Tommy comments that he is glad to see Trini and Zack in sync, but Kimberly thinks he said this on purpose to make her feel like this is all her fault since she had previously disobeyed Tommy's orders as team leader. All the Rangers start talking about what is going on, and Kimberly tells the Omega Rangers that she and Tommy were kicked out by the Master Arch several hours ago. Trini says that they have only been on the run since Rita's soldiers started coming out through that rift, and now the Rangers realize that the rift is getting bigger and bigger. In the pocket dimension, the program tells Billy that Grace expected a lot from him, but never gave him much information to protect him, as sometimes having too much information can become a curse. Now they can't afford to hide the information, so she begins to explain everything to him. Grace discovered that the master bow she used was created by a being called the Morphinaut, but this being we know is the Phantom Ranger. Grace found the notes left by this being and was able to discover that he had closed the bow to leave Dark Spectre inside his own dimension. Unfortunately, Rita used the Zeo crystal to breach the grid and activate an infection. This infection is spreading throughout the grid and is toxic to all Rangers, but obviously not to Dark Spectre. We can now see the rift spreading throughout the grid, and Billy understands that this means Dark Spectre can now go everywhere this infection goes. Grace comments that there wasn't a threat this big since the shattered grid that threatened existence, and Billy doesn't know what she is talking about. In the other place there is also the Yellow Ranger, who after destroying the enemies, now starts talking to Matt. We can see that the Green Ranger is tied up and looks quite upset. She tries to get Matt to talk, but he doesn't want to talk as he feels very bad about all the damage he has caused. The Yellow Ranger tells him that they already broke Rita's spell, but Matt replies that there is still some dark magic left inside him, and any amount of that magic is a lot. All the Rangers gather, and Zack is confused as he doesn't understand why Matt is tied up. The Green Ranger replies that he killed Grace, and Zack can't believe what he's hearing. The only Ranger who can understand Matt is Tommy, as he too was under Rita's spell, and this is why he starts talking to Matt. Tommy starts to tell him that his other version, Draken, also killed innocent people, and then asks Matt if he remembers killing Grace, but he replies that he does not. Tommy keeps trying to convince him by telling him that Rita can cloud his mind, but she can never take his soul. Meanwhile, more of Rita's soldiers start coming through the rift, and the Rangers must start fighting. In the pocket dimension, the program tells Billy that this dimension will not last for long, so he must find the solution to this infection himself. The survival of the Morphin grid depends on him, and this makes Billy nervous, and he begins to question why it should be him and not another Ranger like Tommy or Trini. Billy feels that because he is not the White Ranger or the Red Ranger, he will not be able to handle such a big responsibility, but the program tells him that he is the Blue Ranger, and all Blue Rangers have the talent to solve problems. Billy still feels that he is not going to be able to make it, but the program also tells him that Rangers are not selected for what they will be, but for what they already are, and a morpher only enhances what they already are at heart. As the program says these words to Billy, at the other location the Rangers start fighting with Rita's soldiers who keep coming, but Tommy keeps trying to convince Matt to help them. Tommy manages to convince Matt and tells him that right now they need the Green Ranger. The program also tells Billy that this is why even in the face of devastating loss they never give up hope. Then, she tells him that he has to go now because that place is going to disappear and he may be stuck there forever, so she sends him back telling him that the power will protect us all. In the other place the Rangers continue fighting hard, and in that moment of desperation the Green Ranger and the White Ranger transform. At a spectacular moment, both Rangers start to fight against all of Rita's soldiers, but they realize that again there are too many of them. Tommy tells the Rangers to leave while he stops Rita's soldiers, and at that moment a ship appears. In another place, what appears to be some ship or command center, Billy appears. In that same place Billy finds a chest, which has a note written by Grace that says that the Master Bow was not the only thing she found. When Billy opens the chest, he is very surprised, and inside were 2 giant eggs. In another dimension, in a dinosaur zoo, which we know belongs to the Dino Charge dimension, and this is one of the few times we get to see a different team in the comics. Kendall, the Purple Ranger, begins to see something strange in the energy in Energems. Obviously, we already know that this has been caused by the infection caused by Rita and Dark Spectre in the whole grid. Kendall tries to explain to the other Rangers that they started to lose connection to the Morphin grid for a few moments, and although he doesn't know how this could be possible, he does know that this can't be a good thing. Because of this, Kendall asks the Rangers not to morph until she manages to find the problem, but they think it is impossible not to morph. It is something they simply cannot do. Kendall tells them that Keeper, the mentor of this Ranger team, is investigating and she still hasn't heard from him, so she made the decision to stop morphing for now. At that moment, the alert alarm begins to sound, and although Tyler the Red Ranger thinks it might be Keeper, it really isn't him. The alert sounded because Rita and Dark Spectre just entered this dimension along with many soldiers who are terrorizing all the people. Rita and Dark Spectre were surprised that another dimension existed, and that the infection brought them to this place. Then the Dino Charge Power Rangers show up, and quickly Dark Spectre and Rita realize that they are very powerful Rangers. The Rangers then prepare for Morphin, but Shelby tries to remind Tyler what Kendall had told them. At the command center, Kendall realizes that it was not simply a pulse that disconnected them from the grid, but an infection. As she discovers this, Keeper appears through a portal, but he was already infected and begins to attack Kendall while saying that it is too late as his mistress must have the victory. Despite Kendall's warning, the Rangers begin the transformation, except for the Pink Ranger and the Gold Ranger. This causes the Rangers who attempted the transformation to begin to feel the full power of the infection, and now they are not in control of what is happening. Unfortunately, the 4 Rangers were totally infected and now think they are Rita's soldiers. Dark Spectre is very happy with what is happening, and Rita tells him that she will give him everything as promised. In the other dimension in Promethea, Trona is trying to help everyone she can as Rita's soldiers keep destroying everything and attacking everyone. Because there are also beings from other planets in that place, the mayor of the city does not want to help them. At that moment, Billy arrives and hears Trona say that when they find Grace, she is going to talk to the mayoress, but Billy tells her that that is not going to happen because Grace is dead. Trona can't believe what is happening, and at that moment the guards start running because there is an emergency. Outside Promethea, many of Rita's soldiers had arrived along with a monster and started attacking the guards. Billy starts attacking the monster, but she can stretch a lot and is a very big problem. At that moment, 2 members of the Draken Rangers arrive and begin to help Billy. Because Billy had never seen these Rangers before, he thinks that Grace's program had sent him to another dimension, but the Draken Rangers confirm that he is in the right place. Each Ranger holds a limb of the monster and begins to stretch it a lot. Then the Black Ranger cuts off the monster's head and it explodes completely. Billy still thinks he's in another dimension since he doesn't know the Rangers, but Kia takes off her helmet and tells him he's home. At the command center, Trini and Bulk from Draken's universe are trying to repair Alpha, but Trini says it's going to take a while because he has a complicated firewall to restart. Zordon tells her that Billy installed that to protect Alpha from hackers, and Trini replies that it's not so good since he didn't add a self-defense mode. Just then Billy arrives and tells her that Alpha doesn't need that self-defense mode because he's not built to be a fighter. Trini is very excited to see Billy and is that we must remember that the Billy from that universe is dead, but previously she had met the Billy from the main universe. Zordon asks Billy about the other Rangers, but so far no one has seen them, and even though Billy feels like he's only been gone for a few hours, it's been 3 days without any of the mighty Morphins from this universe showing up. Billy doesn't know what is going on since he was taken to a pocket dimension when the explosion happened, but the Draken Rangers don't know what happened either since they were somewhere else, or so Billy explains everything about the explosion to him. He also tells him that the mighty Morphin were sucked into the Master Ark, and Trini says that happened to the Omega Rangers as well. Bulk explains to him that when all that happened, they had to escape to Earth with the cat and the Conehead, which are Yale and Kever. Scorpina then tells Billy that while he was on vacation, Finster has used the Earth as his monster playground, and then Billy asks how they got back to being Rangers again. At that moment, Draken appears and tells Billy that it's because he was generous. Billy gets very angry, transforms, and even though Trini tries to stop him, Billy manages to shoot Draken. Then the two begin to fight until the Draken Rangers manage to separate them. Despite this, they all start arguing as Billy and Draken want to continue fighting, but Zordon stops them all. At Safe Haven are all the villains who helped with this infection mission, and Dark Spectre is sitting on the throne. Rita begins to say that the infection is still spreading and now its reach is even greater. Soon their power will no longer have a limit, with the Zeo crystal and her power corrupting them, the Rangers are going to fall just by doing morphosis. He then says that not even the Death Ranger has that much control, and when he goes to answer Rita, Dark Spectre tells her that this power doesn't belong to him since he gave it to her and can take it away. Rita tries to answer him by saying that they have taken the power for themselves, but Dark Spectre quickly attacks her to make it clear who the real boss is. Rita falls to the floor and Dark Spectre tells her that there is no us, this power comes from him, and the victory is his alone. Then he asks her to get up because now they can't rest, and even less when the Morphin grid now belongs to him. Inside a spaceship are the Hyperforce Rangers, and they are all upset because they are receiving a call from a man who is always calling them. Inside the ship we can also see the Yellow Ranger of Wild Force, and in order to understand all this, you must read the Hyperforce comic, which we are going to read very soon on this channel. The man who always calls them is Draken, but this time he is with Billy, and they are looking for the Hyperforce Rangers to ask for help. The Blue Hyperforce Ranger is very excited because he is getting to know Billy, and since they are from the future, they know all the things Billy has done. Draken had asked them to find the Rangers all over the Morphin grid, but the Hyperforce Rangers tell him that they have not been able to do so because it is too difficult. The Yellow Ranger tells him that they were only able to find one Ranger from Dino Charge, and we can see that that Ranger is Kendall, who had previously been attacked by Keeper. Kendall says that this was much more than just an attack, so Billy wants to know everything that happened, and the Yellow Wild Force Ranger tells him that the Death Ranger transformed almost the entire Wild Force team. Kendall also tells everything that happened in their dimension and explains that the infection is spreading throughout the grid, making it toxic. Then the Hyperforce explain that they have not been affected by the infection because they travel through time and space using the Hyperstream. Zordon realizes then that Rita doesn't have access to the Hyperstream, but Draken tells her that she doesn't need that since she has the Zeo Crystal and Safe Haven's Master Bow. He also says that soon the grid is going to be completely infected, and they should find as many Rangers as they can before Rita finds them. Although this idea sounds great, the Hyperforce Rangers have been searching the grid for several days and only found Kendall. Besides that, the grid is infinite, and they don't have a map. At that moment, Billy has an idea since Grace left him something and he thinks he might know how to use it. Quickly some Rangers went to the place where the explosion happened, and there was Finster, who managed to escape. Billy asks Bulk and Scorpina to guard the door while he and Trini work inside. Once inside the place, Trini and Billy start to have a little argument since she knows that Billy is bothered by her working with Draken. Billy tells her that it is very stupid since Draken is evil, plus he is also working with Kia and Scorpina. Trini tells him that she trusts Scorpina as she is not the same person he thinks she is, plus she sees life very differently after losing many friends. Now it's not about good or evil, it's about survival. Meanwhile, Billy begins to take out the eggs that Grace had left him and explains to Trini that these are power eggs which contain the power of the universe inside them. These eggs belonged to the Morphin Masters and Grace managed to find them. Billy also explains that if they transform then they can activate these eggs, and this can open the Master Arc. This can help them find the other Rangers, or it can also bring them back. Then Trini and Billy start the transformation, and this causes a big explosion in that place. With this explosion the Phantom Ranger appears, who now points a gun at Billy and asks him what he did. In Safe Haven, Rita and Dark Spectre have turned the whole place into their command center and at the same time into a prison. In this prison we can see that they have trapped Rocky and Adam, the Red and Black Mighty Morphin Rangers. Both of them are looking for a way to relax, and each one uses his own style to be able to do it. Despite all the effort, desperation is very hard, and they decide to check if there are other people locked in that prison as well. When they start shouting to find out if there are other people, they realize that there are other Rangers from different teams locked up very close to them. The first one to answer them is Danny Delgado, the Black Ranger from Wild Force, and when he found out that the ones screaming were Rocky and Adam, he told them that it is strange since the last time he heard from them, they were no longer teenagers. The Death Ranger traveled to the future in search of other Rangers and used a device that the Time Force Rangers have used. After this conversation, many other Rangers who were also locked in that place began to speak, and all were from different teams which belonged to different times or dimensions. At that moment, a man named Angel appears, which peculiarly has a great physical resemblance to Draken, and he is going to introduce them to Dark Spectre. On Earth we can see again the Phantom Ranger threatening Billy since he does not know him and thinks that Billy wants to rebuild the Ark to help Dark Spectre with the infection. At that moment, Trini threatens the Phantom Ranger by putting her dagger to his neck, but Billy starts to explain that the person who rebuilt this arch just wanted to stop the infection, and they were trying that too but failed. The Phantom Ranger realizes that they had used the power eggs to be able to activate the energy, but tells them that those eggs contain a power that they have not yet been able to understand. He also tells them that they could have shattered the universe while trying to save it, but Billy replies that Rita has infected the network. Dark Spectre managed to cross into this universe, and possibly this was the only option. The Phantom Ranger tells them that this may not be the only option to stop Dark Spectre, and begins to tell them that he was at the far edge of space looking for the emissaries in hopes of finding them so they could stop all of this, but at that point the infection caught up with him until it took him to the Master Arch. Trini and Billy know nothing about the emissaries, so the Phantom Ranger tells them that the emissaries are like ancient children of the Morphin Masters who initially discovered the grid. In an effort to thwart Dark Spectre's plans, the emissaries harnessed the power of the Morphin grid and merged with that power, so they are always on the move. The Phantom Ranger wants to find the emissaries as they have direct contact with the Morphin Masters and they can possibly stop the infection, but there is a possibility that they are also trapped. Billy gets a call from Bulk, who tells him that the Hyperforce Rangers found the other members of the Mighty Morphin team, but he also has bad news that they are not alone. In Angel Grove, different Rangers, including the Hyperforce and the Mighty Morphin, are fighting against Rita, Finster, and Squat soldiers. They are obviously finishing off the soldiers, even though more keep appearing, and Finster decides to give them a bigger challenge. The machine Squat was using starts to transform into a monster, and because it is quite large, the Rangers are going to have to use the Zords to stop it. Kimberly says that the Mighty Morphin team can't call in the Megazord because not all the team members are there, so the Hyperforce call in their own Megazord. The Kronos Hyperforce Megazord is ready for battle and begins fighting Finster's new monster. Kimberly says that she can call her Zord to help in the air, but at that moment the Death Ranger appears behind her. The Death Ranger tells her that he needs more new Rangers, and she was calling him because her heart is broken. He then asks if she wants him to fix her heart, but Matt quickly knocks the Death Ranger down. The Megazord manages to destroy the monster, and Squat along with Finster teleport out of there. All the Rangers are ready to take on the Death Ranger, but he says that maybe they can fight another time, and, in the meantime, he's going to send his regards to Tommy from Kimberly. At Safe Haven, Rita and Dark Spectre have Tommy as a prisoner, and Dark Spectre wants to test if the White Ranger's power truly can't be broken, since that power is designed to never be used for evil. Dark Spectre wants to test this theory, so he gives the morpher to Tommy, and when he tries to transform, Rita tries to infect him just as she did all the other Rangers to turn them into villains. In Promethea, the Rangers who were in the battle against Finster arrive, and we can see that even though the Omega Rangers are happy to be together again, Kimberly and Matt are very sad. Matt feels that he was the one who should have been being tortured in Safe Haven and not Tommy, but Kimberly tells him that it's not his fault since Tommy is like that. Zordon and the Phantom Ranger are reunited after a long time, and both are trying to cheer each other up in this very difficult circumstance. They are trying to remember all the losses they have had, but the Phantom Ranger says that it will help them be stronger for what is to come. At that moment, Draken asks, "What is to come?" The Phantom Ranger says that he senses that Draken knows what is coming, and also explains that the only hope to cleanse the Morphin grid of the infection are the Morphin Masters or emissaries. Unfortunately, the Morphin Masters are not responding, and the only way to find them is to enter the heart of the Morphin grid, but that is only possible through a Master Arch. Trini the Omega Ranger says that unfortunately, the only Master Archway left is in Safe Haven, the place where Rita and Dark Spectre are, but Billy says that this is not completely true. In Safe Haven, Rita and Dark Spectre are still trying to experiment on Tommy to transform the white power and turn him into a villain, but apparently this isn't working. Tommy attacks Dark Spectre and then tries to escape but is shot down by another Ranger. Surprisingly, this Ranger is Adam, who along with Rocky has been transformed into villains. Dark Spectre is angry because Rita had promised him a White Ranger, but the plan was not working. In the Bermuda Triangle, Billy is trying to think of a plan to be able to rebuild the arch that was there, since he can use it to lure the Morphin Masters, as happened with the Phantom Ranger, but the Phantom Ranger himself tells him that there is no time to rebuild all that since the infection spreads too fast. Draken tries to threaten Billy to hurry up, thinking of more ideas, but Kimberly punches him in the stomach and says that, if they need a Master Bow, then everyone already knows where there is one. The only way left for them is to go to Safe Haven and risk it to use the Master Arch. In Safe Haven is all of Dark Spectre's army, and we must understand that now all of this is no longer Rita's, because Dark Spectre is the most powerful at the moment. Tommy is a prisoner, and Rita keeps trying to persuade him to become a villain since she had promised Dark Spectre to give him a White Ranger. Rita starts telling Tommy all the things she supposedly did for him, including making him a Ranger and giving him a family. After trying to persuade him by telling him many things, she finally asks him if he would ever serve her again. Tommy taunts her in her face and tells her that Zordon was the one who saved him. He also tells her that the Rangers are now his family, they gave him hope and he only knows love for them. Tommy had nightmares for a long time because of Rita, so he refuses to serve her, and this doesn't make Rita very happy. A very important detail is that Tommy tells her that you can't serve an abuser, and he has seen how Dark Spectre treats her. At Promethea, all the Rangers are there, and Matt begins to explain to the Rangers how Rita works. Rita was for months recruiting generals from all corners of space using force or bounty. She did all of this in the name of Dark Spectre, and that is why most of them remain loyal. Draken claims that he is no longer loyal, and although the other Rangers don't care, this is going to be an important part of the story. Aisha asks the Rangers to stop talking and let Matt finish what he is saying. Matt tries to continue, but at that moment he starts to feel the evil power inside him again and cannot continue. Aisha goes after him and then hugs him in order to calm him down. Apparently, Matt also started to feel anxiety, and this is what activated the power inside him, so because of this, Aisha tells him that he should not go on this mission. The other Rangers try to think of something else since now they don't have all the information Matt was giving them, so Zack tries to explain a little secret the Omega Rangers have. In Safe Haven there is a maintenance tunnel underneath everything and no one knows about this path, so they can use it, so they don't have to make a frontal attack. The Rangers want to try to get to Safe Haven to gain access to the only remaining Master Arch so they can search for the emissaries, but the Dark Spectre army is too large and there are not enough Rangers to accomplish this mission. The Rangers may try to enter through this secret tunnel, but if they are discovered, then they are not going to be ready for a showdown. Billy says that he and Morgan may be able to set something up so they can help the Rangers, but Zordon thinks there is another Ranger they can call in. At the Bandora Palace on the moon we get to see Lord Zedd's new Zord, which is an upgraded version of Serpentera, though it's not working well at the moment. Because of this, Lord Zedd, Golder and Babu are trapped on the moon. Lord Zedd says that without the Zord they don't stand a chance against Dark Spectre's army, so they can't even look for another ship to take them on as they would lose the battle. Suddenly an artifact falls from space and although everyone freaked out because they thought it was a bomb, it's actually a transmitter. Zordon sent this artifact to communicate with Lord Zedd and apparently this is the other Ranger he was referring to. Zordon and Lord Zedd are going to join forces in order to defeat Rita, but obviously Zordon knows he must trick Zedd in order to convince him. Zordon tells him that Serpentera is now owned by Promethea, but they are going to allow Lord Zedd to keep the Zord if he gives them something in return. On Earth, Kimberly is at Jason's house to help him heal his wounds as he had previously tried to fight Matt to save Earth, but he is no longer a Ranger and so he received a severe blow to the head. Kimberly also needs Jason's wisdom, so she vents and talks about everything she's going through. She tells him that she doesn't need words of hope, she needs him to promise her that he's going to take care of the land if the Rangers don't come back from Safe Haven. Jason tries to process everything that is going on, but finally promises Kimberly that he will take care of the land if anything bad happens to the Rangers. In Safe Haven many are impatient and Dane begins to doubt Dark Spectre's plan. He doesn't like that Dark Spectre uses dark magic to transform the Rangers as it turns them into mindless slaves and the best strategy is to break the will of others. Finster tries to explain to him that with that magic the will has been locked away and he should be thankful that Dark Spectre for now is only focusing on the Rangers. She also tells him that he should be careful what he says since Dark Spectre doesn't have the ability to forgive like Rita does and the Death Ranger is finding that out right now. Dark Spectre is beating the crap out of the Death Ranger for going to Earth without asking his permission. Here we can see the immense power this evil being has. Dark Spectre tells him that he gave him everything, including the body he has, and he doesn't deserve it anymore. Before Dark Spectre finishes off the Death Ranger, Rita offers to take care of that problem and he gets angry that she is trying to steal that moment of anger from him. Rita tries to convince him by saying that the Death Ranger is not worthy of Dark Spectre's wrath, but this only seems like a long-term plan of this witch. Dark Spectre admits that even though his new body is powerful, he still has limitations and now feels tired, so he allows Rita to do whatever she wants. The Death Ranger says he can still help, but Rita begins to punish him with all her power, and we can see that she has the Zeo crystal in her staff. Outside there is a war going on as Lord Zedd has arrived with Serpentera along with the Hyperforce Rangers Megazord. These two giant Zords are crushing everyone and the Rangers realize that Lord Zedd has a lot of anger. The other Rangers made it through the tunnel and are now inside the place, but they know they have lost the advantage as Lord Zedd started attacking earlier than planned. Despite this, Billy says that Lord Zed was the distraction and now both Zords are being overwhelmed by the army, so the Rangers inside must hurry. At that moment, Alpha 1 appears, which had merged with 11 and arrived with many soldiers to stop the Rangers. In addition to all those soldiers, the Rangers who have been possessed by Dark Spectre also appear, and among them are Adam and Rocky. The battle begins and Kimberly warns Billy that they need to go with the backup plan as they have too many enemies. This is an epic battle between many Rangers of different dimensions. Outside, the Zords are being overwhelmed, so Billy tells the Hyperforce Rangers to get out of there and take Serpentera with them, but obviously this doesn't sit well with Lord Zed. Inside is the epic battle and Draken thinks they are losing, but Kimberly replies that they have had lesser odds in other battles. At that moment Kimberly gets a big attack from a dark energy, and obviously we already know where it's coming from. Rita and Dark Spectre arrive at the battle, and although Bulk tries to save Kimberly, the soldiers hold her back while Draken escapes on the other side. Draken finds the Master Arch, and while the Rangers are still trying to survive, he manages to open the portal. Draken uses the key he had used before, and we can also see that Dark Spectre continues to use his dark energy to kill everyone. With this same magic he manages to transform Kimberly back into Ranger Slayer, who follows Draken and manages to enter through the portal. In the dimension of the Coinless, which was the dimension that Lord Draken ruled, there he was before the events of the Shattered Grid happened. At that moment, the Ranger Slayer arrives to inform him about the success of his mission, and Lord Draken was very happy with Kimberly's work. Draken begins to congratulate Kimberly for everything she has done and tells her that he chose his Ranger Slayer well. Then Kimberly starts telling him that she will do anything he says, anything he wants, but Draken wanted her to be his mate, and that was the one thing she wasn't willing to do. Going back to the present, we can see that Draken is inside the grid, and in that place, everything is destroyed. While we see these images, we can also read Draken's thoughts as if they were a narration of his life, and he says that his whole story has been complex. He also says that many have called him a murderer, a king, or a god. He has been all that, and if he could, he would be again. Unfortunately, he has run out of opportunities. Draken arrives at a place with no way out. This seems quite strange to him, and then he realizes that the Ranger Slayer is in that place. The battle begins, and the Ranger Slayer gives him a strong kick that introduces him inside that dark cloud. Apparently, this dark cloud is the evil power that transforms Rangers into Dark Spectre's slaves, and even though Ranger Slayer is trying to cast a spell on Draken, this isn't working. Draken shows him the white light power coin and tells him that Zordon designed that coin to never be corrupted by evil. That is why Dark Spectre's power cannot transform Draken. In Safe Haven, the Rangers are still in the great battle, and now Kia realizes that Draken escaped through the Master Arch to enter the grid. The Rangers do not seem to be winning the battle as there are too many enemies, and many of them are other Rangers that Dark Spectre has enslaved. On Earth, the other Rangers are preparing a way out so that the Rangers in the battle can escape, and Morgan warns Kimberly that they have little time left to escape. Rita realizes that Bulk is a strong Ranger, so she starts trying to cast a spell on him so she can transform him into part of her army, and Kimberly tells Billy that it's time to escape. Billy says that they all need to be close so he can bring them back. So all the Rangers start running for the same place, and Billy teleports them all at the same time. Morgan confirms that this powerful teleportation was thanks to the energy of the Energem, and quickly the Phantom Ranger wants to know if everyone could make it. Unfortunately, not everyone made it. Kia stayed behind to put an explosive in the Master Arch because she was angry with Draken and thinks that by destroying the arch he won't be able to return. Inside the grid, Draken and Ranger Slayer continue to fight, and despite all of Kimberly's attempts, Draken continues to fight. Because Ranger Slayer is filled with Dark Specter's dark power, she is strongly attacking Draken, who begins to say that he made a mistake when he created her. Draken admits that he loved Kimberly, and this made him so weak that he failed to take her life when he should have. Ranger Slayer mocks Draken's weakness, but then he hits her hard and breaks her helmet. We can see Kimberly's face filled with the dark energy, and she confirms that the grid shows us the location of Draken's dimension, since that place is important to him. Draken says that this place is important to him because that is where Rita found him and gave him her name. Kimberly also tells him that she remembers when he gave her a name, and Draken repeats that she was a very good servant. Ranger Slayer says that nothing was enough for him, as he always wanted more. He even wanted to force her to love him, and he never had mercy as he did not take her life. He even made her a slave, and even her mind could not be free. Kimberly shoots an arrow at him, but Draken manages to dodge it and then tells her that now she doesn't have her mind free either. She explains to him that Dark Specter only wants servitude, not love, so she is going to serve him until her last remaining breath, and Draken then wants to help her so she can be free. In Safe Haven, Dark Specter is very angry with Rita and starts yelling insults at her for letting the Rangers escape, as well as allowing them to destroy the Master Arch. Dark Specter thinks that now Rita is no longer of any use to him, and this scares the witch very much, as she can recognize that Dark Specter is very powerful. In a desperate attempt to remain relevant to Dark Specter, Rita tells him that she can help him to continue to have access to the grid. She had previously opened the Master Arch using the grid energy inside her, and now with this scepter that is filled with dark energy, Dark Specter will be able to access the grid. As the infection continues to spread, Dark Specter's power will continue to grow, and he can feel all that power. There are still many Rangers who are not infected, and Dark Specter wants to turn them into slaves. We get to see some of these teams, and this includes the newest team, the Dino Fury. We can also see some events that are happening in different places: Lord Zed fighting the Hyper Forces because he felt betrayed, Alpha 1 locking up the Rangers that failed to escape Safe Haven, and the Rangers that managed to escape are on Earth very worried. Meanwhile, Draken and Ranger Slayer continue in their battle, and Draken tells her that he wants to help her since she should never have been trapped. Kimberly feels that her purpose was always to be a slave, since Draken and Dark Specter have not let her free, but Draken tells her that he thinks differently now. Again, the comic shows us Lord Draken's narration of his life, saying that his story was complex, and meanwhile we can see that Ranger Slayer has thrown an arrow at him, but Draken also threw the dagger at him. A very important moment in this story of Lord Draken is when he continues to talk about his life and says that he has run out of chances. Ranger Slayer has managed to stick the arrow in his chest, but Draken also managed to stick her with the dagger, but not with the intention of ending her life. Then the white light power coin appears on the dagger, and this energy begins to destroy all the dark energy inside Kimberly and frees her from Dark Specter's power. Draken begins to say his last words as the arrow had hit his chest, but he could see that his plan had worked to free Kimberly. In a trembling voice, Draken tells her that he now sees her free, and then hands her the white light power coin, but also warns her that this gift comes with some conditions. One last command from your Lord Draken: save the universe. You must seek out the Morphin Masters. Then with his last breath of life he tells Kimberly not to let the villains win. Finally, Draken died. The story begins with Ranger Slayer's narration, which talks about archery and gymnastics as both disciplines are about precision. While she is talking, we can see all the training she had with Lord Draken when they were both a team, and she narrates that in archery you have to practice a lot to be able to hit a small target. Then she talks about all the training she's had because she was a villain, and she can't miss because if that happens she can die. She also talks about the guardian angels, which save other people, and we can notice that she is referring to Kimberly and Tommy. We can also see the last moments of life of Lord Draken, who gave Ranger Slayer the white power coin, and now the mission is to search for the Morphin Masters to save the universe. Now we begin to see the inside of the grid, and I want you to be very attentive to the colors because that is going to be an important part. In this area, the main colors are red, yellow, and orange. Ranger Slayer is quite lost as she doesn't even know where to start looking for the Morphin Masters and starts asking the power coin for help as she thinks she can't do this alone. At that moment, she begins to hear a robotic voice, which asks her a slightly confusing question. This voice was from Robot 11, which was trapped in a red tree, and he seemed to be part of the tree. This robot is not the same one we know, it is just the same style of robot, and it was created by the Morphin Masters. Ranger Slayer takes the opportunity to ask him about the location of the Morphin Masters, but the robot tells her that they went into the light when the darkness came to this place, and she must be careful because the forest has its eyes on her. At that moment, there is a terrible silence in the forest, and suddenly several giant animals appear that are created with the energy. Almost all of these animals are red, yellow, and orange in color, plus they are all corrupted by the dark energy, and that is why they want to attack the Ranger. All the animals begin their attack, and Ranger Slayer says that having to attack those possessed by dark energy is very difficult since she must contain their blows. She begins to escape, and although she feels that she is possibly straying from the right path to find the Morphin Masters, at that moment, she hears a voice that begins to give her instructions on the path she must follow. Ranger Slayer manages to free herself from the animals, and although they are still chasing her, the voice tells her that she must continue without stopping. Then it tells her that she must jump until she reaches the boat, and although the Ranger feels that the boat is far away, she jumps with great strength. The voice belonged to the pink emissary, who starts to introduce herself, but Ranger Slayer stops her because he already knows who she is. We can notice in the conversation that Ranger Slayer does not treat the emissary very well. He even thinks that she could have helped her more and not just given her directions. The emissary tells her that this trip is only Ranger Slayer's, and she cannot interfere, she can only offer guidance. She also tells her that the Ranger Slayer must find and free the Morphin Masters so that they can cleanse the grid of the Dark Spectre infection. We can begin to see that the colors of this area are pink, blue, and purple, which are mixed between the clouds and water. Ranger Slayer asks the emissary to lead the way, but the emissary does not know where the Morphin Masters are. She then explains that the grid is large, that it is constantly changing, and this is a place where thought and energy come together. If the grid goes down, then all life will go down too. Basically, if Ranger Slayer fails in this mission, then the entire universe will cease to exist. Ranger Slayer wants to know what is behind those clouds, but the emissary only asks him to have faith as they are on the right path for now. Now they arrive at a very strange place, where there are floating pyramids with water cascades falling into the void. A long time ago, the Morphin Masters lived like many other civilizations, but after solving social and environmental problems, they wanted to discover the secrets of the universe. This is how they discovered the Morphin Grid, and although Ranger Slayer thinks they found the grid by accident, the emissary thinks it was fate. Then the waterway ends. Ranger Slayer is afraid of falling into the void, but the emissary tells her that she must free her mind, and then the ship begins to float in the air. The Morphin Masters had brought their entire civilization to this place because they were escaping from Dark Spectre and took the opportunity to study the grid. Now there is no one in this place because they are all far away fleeing from all the infection, but in this pyramid, there are sources of knowledge that can provide answers. This place is a place of communion and a way to communicate with others through the grid. Ranger Slayer thinks the emissary brought her to a church, but then she hears a voice telling her that this is not a place of worship. That voice came from Billy, which we could see through an image that appeared in the water that was falling in that place, and he began to say that sometimes you can talk to the dead. This is the Billy from the Ranger Slayer universe, who had died in the war against Lord Draken and was now able to connect to the grid somehow. He then says that this image is just an echo of Billy because even though he is dead, he can be here and everywhere because of the connection to the grid. The emissary begins to ask Billy about the location of the Morphin Masters, and he tells her that the entire population was told that they must retreat into the grid, but now only the 6 wisest elders of the Morphin Masters remain. He also tells her that even though the 6 elders are refugees, without the white light it is only a matter of time before they are overwhelmed by the infection. The very excited emissary says that the Ranger Slayer has the white light power coin, and we can notice that Billy now has a very different face. Somehow, Billy is able to reach out and asks Kimberly to give him the power coin so he can take it to the Morphin Masters. Kimberly refuses, and she says that Lord Draken gave his life to save this coin, so she wants to personally deliver it to the Morphin Masters. The emissary tries to convince Kimberly to give the coin to Billy, but Kimberly won't budge, and Billy tells her that the grid is maintained by faith and trust, so she must trust him. The Ranger Slayer says that in order for her to trust, then Billy must say what her favorite color is, and although the emissary thinks they don't have time for these games, Kimberly tells her that she is just being very careful. This is the turning point because, if Billy really is an echo of the real Billy, then this will be a very easy question to answer. Now we can see the reality. This was not Billy, this was the blue emissary who is also infected and starts attacking the Ranger Slayer to take away the white light power coin. Kimberly asks the pink emissary for help, but the blue emissary tells her that she is not going to get her hands dirty, and then both manage to escape from that place. The blue emissary also manages to escape by destroying a wall and keeps trying to corner the Ranger Slayer, but she keeps defending herself. The blue emissary tries to get Kimberly out of concentration, but she remains focused on her attack because, as she said in the beginning of this story, she can never fail. The blue emissary thinks she missed with her arrows, but Kimberly had aimed for the walls to collapse everything and the whole structure to fall on top of the blue emissary. Ranger Slayer and the pink emissary continue on their way on the floating boat. Kimberly tells the emissary that she is sorry for killing the blue emissary, then the pink emissary says that she is sorry that the blue emissary tried to kill Kimberly. Despite these apologies, Kimberly is very angry because she feels that the blue emissary did not help her, but the excuse the emissary uses is that she allowed Kimberly to stand up for herself to make her stronger. This makes Kimberly very angry, and she tells her that she won't be able to learn anything if she loses her life. After this, Kimberly starts talking about everything she wanted to do in her life in a very sad way because she feels like she has lost everything. She also feels that the other Kimberlys in other universes have lost nothing. However, she has nothing left to lose, and yet she is still losing everything. The emissary tells her that she has been very strong and has been able to endure what no one would have endured. This is why she is here, and then the emissary starts to say that the Morphin Masters were right, but those words make Kimberly very angry. The Ranger Slayer tells the emissary that the Morphin Masters have nothing to do with her life. She also tells her that her faith in the Morphin Masters is what almost caused the destruction of everything. Now they have both arrived at the entrance to the heart of the grid, a large blue stone with a crater in the center, and the pink emissary continues with her words of faith towards the Morphin Masters. She says that both have been blessed, protected, and guided by the light, but Kimberly does not feel blessed. At that moment, some hands can be seen coming out of the ground, and apparently, this is going to complicate the situation. The two beings that came out of the ground were the green emissary and the black emissary, both of which were infected by Dark Specter's dark energy. They both begin to speak a joint message and ask Kimberly to hand over the white light power coin if she does not want to be destroyed. The pink emissary is stunned as she realizes that she is apparently the only emissary who has not been infected, and Ranger Slayer tells the emissaries that she will not hand over the coin. The battle begins and both emissaries are empowered to use all the Ranger weapons of their color. They both begin to say that they were slaves of the Morphin Masters and Dark Specter was the one who freed them. Obviously, Dark Specter's power is doing the talking, as this infection takes away the control of each person's body, and dark energy is what controls it. Ranger Slayer tries to explain to both of them that they are really Dark Specter's slaves, and she is not willing to become another slave. In this scene we can also realize that again Ranger Slayer is fighting alone, and the pink emissary is not helping her. Despite the effort Kimberly is making, the two emissaries are very strong, and the black emissary manages to cut her bow in half. Then the green emissary manages to shoot an energy beam, and now the Ranger Slayer is on the ground. Suddenly, the pink emissary stabs the black emissary in the back with half of her bow, and she joins the fight. The green emissary continues the fight and tells the pink emissary that the war is ending, so it's time for her to join the right side. After this he manages to stab the green emissary with his sword in an attempt to infect her. At that moment, Ranger Slayer tries to save the pink emissary and attacks the green emissary. Something important that the black and green emissaries say is that the saviors they are looking for are not going to help them. Despite this, they both tell them that they are going to get to the Morphin Masters, even if they have to destroy all the emissaries. Now the black and green emissaries decide to leave, but before that, they say that their lives are a lie. Although Ranger Slayer and the pink emissary seem to be prepared for battle, the reality is that they wanted the other emissaries to leave because they were too weak. The attack that the pink emissary received was very strong, and she wanted Kimberly to continue on her way to bring the white light power coin to the Morphin Masters, but Kimberly does not want to abandon her despite the risk involved, as the emissary is possibly infected. Kimberly's hope is that the Morphin Masters will save the pink emissary's life, and they both begin to enter the place where they are hiding. Voices begin to be heard. They were the Morphin Masters, who tell them that they were waiting for them. The Morphin Masters quickly realize that the pink emissary is hurt, but Kimberly tells them that now everyone is going to be okay because she brought them the white light power coin. The Morphin Masters are surprised by this discovery, but then something very strange happens, and one of the Morphin Masters says that this coin is important because of the soft creamy center. Apparently, they think it is a chocolate coin, and he tries to bite into it, but almost breaks a tooth as it is obviously a real coin. After this, the Morphin Masters invite Kimberly and the pink emissary, who they call Aaliyah, to join them at the table. They all sit down at the table, and one of the Morphin Masters begins to serve the food, but there is something strange about this. In the bowl there was no food, everything was empty, and the other Morphin Masters were enjoying everything as if there was actually food on their plates. Ranger Slayer and the emissaries saw nothing, but the Morphin Masters began to say that life leads to death and death leads to rebirth. We don't know if the emissaries have gone crazy after being locked up for so long or if they really have so much wisdom that no one can understand them. Now the pink emissary begins to transform due to the infection, and Kimberly quickly demands the Morphin Masters to save her. She threatens the Morphin Masters because despite seeing that the emissary was hurt, they were still enjoying an imaginary meal, and now we can see that the Morphin Masters actually went crazy because one of them just realized that Kimberly was there. Finally, the pink emissary completely transforms and says that she has lost faith, that the Morphin Masters have lost themselves in the grid. The pink emissary wants to destroy the Morphin Masters, but Kimberly won't let her, and the emissary thinks she can't stop her because she is a powerful emissary. Despite this, Kimberly tries to talk to Aaliyah to try to free herself from the infection, but the pink emissary starts saying the same words that the other infected emissaries were saying. We can see that the pink emissary is very powerful and starts to use all the weapons of all the pink rangers in the story. In the meantime, she starts to give a speech about freedom, the future, and the purpose of life. Then we can only read Kimberly's thoughts, who begins to say that the pink emissary was right about something, and that is that she had said that all the suffering was what brought the Ranger Slayer here. She also remembers that the pink emissary had told her that she allowed her to fail so that she would become stronger, so that when this very moment came, Kimberly could defeat her. Then Kimberly starts saying the same words she said in the beginning of the story, that you practice a lot of times so you can hit the target, but sometimes that's not what you want to do. Then we get to see Ranger Slayer shoot an arrow into the pink emissary and at the same time ask for forgiveness. Kimberly says that sometimes meeting your guardian angel doesn't always end with a happy ending, and then follows up by apologizing to the pink emissary. The emissary begins to speak to Kimberly, and this time it is not the dark energy speaking, but Aaliyah herself. She thanks Kimberly and tells her that she can still fix all this. After the emissary dies, the Morphin Masters are so mad that they think she's just sleeping. They even invite Kimberly to stay with them so that she will be safe there forever. Finally, Kimberly in her thoughts says that sometimes a lifetime of training means that your story is just beginning, because the Morphin Masters are not the ones who will save us, we must save ourselves. While Ranger Slayer was inside the grid, Dark Spectre continued to conquer other Power Rangers teams, and this time he goes after the Alien Rangers. Due to the infection that Dark Spectre had implemented in the grid, he could travel anywhere and to any time. Remember that the grid is connected to all epochs, and that is why Dark Spectre keeps finding other Rangers. The Alien Rangers don't know what is going on, so they try to confront Dark Spectre, and this is obviously what he wants. In order for Dark Spectre to infect the Rangers, they must connect to the grid, and since the Alien Rangers know nothing about the situation, this is the first thing they do. Dark Spectre has managed to conquer the Alien Rangers planet and now intends to continue searching for other teams. Rita tries to say that this is all thanks to her, but Dark Spectre threatens her and tells her that she didn't do anything. This doesn't sit well with Alpha 11, and he says that Dark Spectre forgets that this is all thanks to Rita. He also tells Rita that he serves her and not Dark Spectre, as masters should appreciate their servants. At the command center, Zordon receives a message from Elter informing him that the Alien Rangers have been infected by Dark Spectre, and the Rangers explain to him that when Dark Spectre arrives somewhere, that space becomes infected. If in that space any Ranger tries to transform, then he is automatically going to be infected. In Promethea, Taylor, Zack, and Jason are discussing the possibility of the volunteers being able to defend the Earth, and it is very complicated to teach them to be soldiers so quickly. Jason understands that it is impossible to teach them to be soldiers, but at least they can give them a chance to save their home and fight for the Earth. Taylor thinks it is very difficult since the enemy is so powerful, but Jason says that the strength of humanity is to fight even when everything seems impossible. To begin training, the Rangers enter a simulation, a Promethea technology that gives them a very real-looking scenario so they can practice before the actual battle. The volunteers in training are tasked with saving civilians and the Rangers are tasked with taking out the monster. Despite being a simulation, Bulk and Skull are very scared and are trying to save a baby. At that moment, an enemy begins to approach, and Jason manages to save them. In the Bermuda Triangle, the Rangers are trying to protect the site of the Master Arch ruins because the other Rangers are trying to open the eggs. These eggs are very old and apparently contain the power of the grid. The Rangers are worried about what Dark Spectre might do since he now has so much power, but the Phantom Ranger says that the land had been protected for thousands of years, but now it no longer poses a threat to Dark Spectre. This is why he has done nothing, as now the Rangers are like mice waiting in a trap. At that moment, Morgan manages to open one of the eggs and now the Rangers go to find out what is inside. The Rangers are surprised to find that inside the egg is a crystal that has all the power of the grid and is a part that is out of Dark Spectre's reach. The Rangers come up with the idea that they can use the Master Arch to turn it into a shield using the energy of the crystal inside the egg, and in this way, they can repel Dark Spectre. Because Grace is gone, the Rangers don't know how to do all this, but luckily, the Phantom Ranger was the one who built this Master Arch, and he can build this shield. Now Dark Spectre arrives in another galaxy to conquer the Psycho Rangers, who are willing to fight, but they are no match for Dark Spectre's power. Angel, who is Dark Spectre's general, explains to him everything that the Psycho Rangers are going to do in the future, and Dark Spectre is happy because these Rangers are evil and powerful. Rita tries to tell Dark Spectre that these Rangers are unpredictable even though they are infected, but Dark Spectre gets very angry because he didn't ask for her opinion. At that moment, Dark Spectre tries to open the portal, but surprisingly the portal does not open. On Earth, the Rangers manage to create the shield and then explain to the other Rangers that this is temporary. The power in the eggs works like a battery. It is a power that will eventually run out, but it is a new source of power. This way the Rangers can transform without the risk of being infected, and although this is temporary, it gives them enough time to plan. Zordon asks the Hyperforce Rangers to travel to different galaxies to find the other Rangers who have not been infected and bring them to Earth. On the first trip they go in search of the Zeo Gold Ranger and Blue Centurion, who were being cornered by the enemies. In this trip some Rangers were already infected, but there were others who were still fighting, trying to use the weapons without being able to transform. Another destination was Miranoi, and this time the Hyperforce encountered the Pink Ranger from Lost Galaxy and Magna Defender. They don't know the Hyperforce, so they are very suspicious, and the only thing that makes them trust again is that the Hyperforce are not Dark Spectre's servants. The Hyperforce also travel into the future and now encounter the Dino Thunder Rangers, who are fighting hard, but almost lose the battle. Fortunately, the Hyperforce arrive in time and manage to save all of these Rangers so they can make it to Earth. Dark Spectre realizes what was going on and is very angry as he has not been able to infect all the Rangers. In addition to this, the Rangers that are being saved are also taking them to a safe place where they can't follow them. Rita starts apologizing to him and says that she is going to find a way through the Earth barrier, but this doesn't matter to Dark Spectre. No matter what Rita says, Dark Spectre feels that she is to blame for all of this and says that he has lost his patience already. As Rita is begging for forgiveness, a loud sound is heard. Dark Spectre has destroyed Alpha 11 and says that he hears everything, so he demands total loyalty. This was because of the conversation Alpha 11 had with Rita, in which he told her that he was only her servant and not Dark Spectre's. In the Bermuda Triangle we can see that the Phantom Ranger is looking intently at the Master Arch and then tries to touch it. Apparently, something happens that doesn't allow the Phantom Ranger to get through the arch, and then we can see that there is a spark of energy. The Phantom Ranger tells Billy that he has spent many years regretting what he did as he had built this Master Arch to help his people, but now they are all doomed because he brought Dark Spectre into this world. Despite this, Billy tells him that in science there are always some risks and sometimes there is no choice, for now the arch is being used for protection. The Phantom Ranger replies that sometimes some actions are not worth the risk they carry, so Billy must learn from the mistakes he made. At that moment, the portal opens, and the Rangers can't believe what is happening. The Ranger Slayer goes through the portal and returns to Earth after her journey in search of the Morphin Masters, but she brings the white power coin with her. At the prison, Rita visits Tommy, who has not been able to be infected because he uses the White Ranger power, which is unbreakable. Rita asks Tommy if redemption can be for anyone, and Tommy replies that everything must begin with intention and mercy, but Dark Spectre doesn't understand that. Rita agrees with Tommy's words, and as he frees him, she tells him that he is no longer of any use to Dark Spectre. After the Rangers managed to create a shield for the Earth using the eggs that contained the energy of the grid, they also created a shield in the Bandora Palace on the moon, and Lord Zed is very worried because the shield is getting smaller every day. In this image we can also notice that none of Dark Spectre's soldiers can get past the shield, and they are all waiting for the shield to fall. Even though Kendall and Billy are working to try to stabilize the shield, Lord Zed remains impatient and doesn't know if it was a good idea to let the Rangers into his castle. Trini from the other dimension tells him that he should be patient, but Lord Zed is so angry that he destroys some Dark Spectre soldiers. Trini from the Omega Rangers and Trini from the other dimension begin to have a strange conversation as they both lament that Scorpina and Bulk have been trapped with Dark Spectre. Then the Omega Ranger also regrets that the other Trini has lost the Zack of that dimension. Meanwhile, Zack the Omega Ranger is giving orders to Lord Zed's soldiers, and it feels strange having to give orders to those monsters after having fought them so many times. Trini from the other dimension tells the Omega Ranger that after having lost so many people she thought she would feel nothing by losing more people, but it has been the opposite, and that is why she tells the Omega Ranger that she must talk to Zack before it's too late. While they are having that conversation, we can see that Rita's staff opens a portal and apparently, she has reached the moon. In the command center, Ranger Slayer begins to explain to everyone that the Morphin Masters are crazy, and with this we can confirm that they were not actually being geniuses, but rather insane. She also explains that the emissaries were corrupted, and the Phantom Ranger is so shocked that he doesn't want to believe Kimberly's words, so the both of them start having an argument. The Phantom Ranger thinks that the Slayer Ranger may still be infected, but Kimberly tells him that his suit is literally painted with Dark Spectre's corruption. Let's remember that in the past the Phantom Ranger's suit was white, but due to certain problems with Dark Spectre, his suit changed to black. Zordon stops the fight and, very angry, tells the Rangers that they can't do anything for those who are lost, but with human ingenuity they must move forward. He then asks Billy about the options they have, But Billy is unsure as they don't know much about the eggs, and despite his power, the shield continues to shrink. The Phantom Ranger can't believe that the last place that isn't infected is Earth, and he thinks there must be another place, but Kimberly tells him that it doesn't matter since they haven't heard from the Hyperforce Rangers in several days. At that moment Alpha 5 realizes that Rita has opened a portal and has arrived attacking Dark Spectre's soldiers. Rita has arrived along with Tommy, who is once again using his White Ranger powers, and we already know that this power cannot be corrupted. The Rangers can't believe what they are seeing, and Lord Zed quickly realizes that Rita is no longer the favorite of Dark Spectre, who has also crossed the portal. Rita gathers all her power, which comes from the Zeo crystals, and Dark Spectre says that she is a traitor, so he wants to destroy her. Despite these words, Rita tells Dark Spectre that she has repaid 10 times everything he has given her, and now thinks that Dark Spectre will not be able to succeed without her help. Tommy goes to confront Rocky and Adam, who are infected, and both want to attack Tommy at the same time. Because this is a huge disadvantage, Zack prepares to go out to fight, but Trini stops him, since if he has to take off the suit then he won't be able to transform again without being corrupted. At Promethea, all the volunteers are still training hard, but at that moment Torona tells Jason and Taylor that Candace hasn't contacted her in 3 days, and this may mean that Elter has fallen. Skull is very worried since Candace is his ex-girlfriend and no one knows anything about her. On the moon, the battle continues, and now a ship arrives from which someone leaves. This person is the Ranger Slayer, who was using the white power coin, and this creates a white barrier around her body. The Rangers can't believe what they are seeing, as she had been corrupted and is now fighting to help Tommy. The Ranger Slayer asks Tommy why she isn't on the other side of the shield, but Tommy obviously doesn't know anything about this shield. Because of this, Kimberly kicks him hard so that he can pass to the other side of the shield, and then she also plans to enter. Dark Spectre begins to win the battle against Rita, and he is very powerful. Just as we assumed, Ranger Slayer crosses to the other side of the shield and abandons Rita. Now all the infected Rangers attack Rita, and she is lying on the ground helpless, but Tommy wants the Rangers to save her since he knows that Dark Spectre wants to destroy her. Then Dark Spectre hits Rita so hard that it destroys her helmet, and we can see her white hair. Dark Spectre sentences her to the maximum punishment, but surprisingly everyone receives a strong energy hit. Lord Zed had attacked them all, remembering that he has powers of a ranger, so he holds Rita and teleports to another place. Dark Spectre is very angry and then tries to attack the Rangers, but the shield protects them all. Even though the Rangers are a little nervous, they allow Dark Spectre to try to break through the shield to see what happens, and they all begin to see that the power of the uncorrupted grid is still toxic to him. Dark Spectre is badly injured, so Angel opens a portal to escape. Now Billy begins to examine Tommy after being locked up in Dark Spectre's prison for so long and suffering so much torture. After a short conversation, Tommy realizes that Billy isn't doing too well, but Billy tells him that doesn't matter much and is just glad that he's back. At that moment Kimberly arrives and is crying because of the emotion she feels at having Tommy back, and then they both begin to kiss passionately. Somewhere else, Lord Zed begins to complain to Rita about everything that had happened and tells her that he had been merciful to her many times. He also tells her that he has destroyed many others for far less than the things she did, but he pitied her again and again. Despite having been pious so many times, she repaid him this way. Rita wishes she had done more, but Lord Zed makes it clear that he does not hate her for her betrayal, and Rita just begs him to let her go. Lord Zed explains to her that they are villains and hatred is their nature, her downfall. Because of the hatred she felt towards him, she then chose another master. Through that same hatred she condemned the universe, the same universe that both had sworn to conquer together. Lord Zed begins to dance with Rita as he asks her what will become of them now. In Angel Grove, Zack and Jason are training since they haven't trained together in a long time. Let's remember that Jason was part of the Omega Rangers and now the 3 original Omega Rangers are together again. Zack invites Trini to train with her friends, but she prefers to give them a hug. Then Zack and Trini start talking and Zack notices that she is very thoughtful and tells her that she can tell him anything. Although Trini accepts that something is wrong with her, she tells him that she prefers to have that conversation at another time and wants to enjoy the present. Jason joins the conversation by asking Trini if everything is okay and she tells him that she just never knows what might happen tomorrow. In the Bermuda Triangle, there are Prometheus soldiers guarding the eggs, but Kia suddenly appears and steals one of the eggs. Rita Repulsa begins by narrating part of her life, making an introspection of everything she has done and basically saying that she is tired of everything. She says that she has won many battles and also lost many times, but despite this she never gave up. She was always guided by faith, destined to never fail, but now she can't do anything anymore. While Rita narrates all these things, we can see that Lord Zed has her wand, which no longer has the Zeo crystal and has now locked Rita in the space trash can. Rita continues with her narration and doesn't know if it's all over for her, if this will be the end. She wants to know if this is the moment in which she is going to disappear, and we must understand that this is very deep for a being who has lived thousands of years. Meanwhile, we can see Billy, who is in the Bermuda Triangle, walking through the corridors and suddenly sees Grace's body. This is obviously a vision since the Blue Ranger has not rested in a long time, and at that moment, he hears a voice calling for help. At the place where the eggs are, Morgan tries to stop Kia from stealing them and Billy arrives to help her. Because Kia managed to take one of the eggs, she destabilized the shield and now the Rangers must repair it quickly. The interesting thing about this situation is that Kia said she was doing them a favor, but obviously disconnecting the shield doesn't seem like a favor. All the Rangers are in different places using their free time to relax their minds, although we must say that Trini and Zack are still fighting on the moon. Despite the little time of peace they have had, the Rangers are unable to concentrate, and this situation is still very difficult. Something important that the Omega Rangers have noticed is that they are no longer sending Dark Spectre soldiers to the moon, and they think this is suspicious. In this story we can see that there are 3 couples, and they are all talking about the difficulties, the wounds that the situation has left and the connection that they need to retake. In these conversations we can notice the most human side of the Rangers as they are all afraid of what might happen, and apparently it is one of the most difficult situations they have had to live in. Despite all these problems, they all decide to support each other and be strong to succeed together. It is a moment full of emotions as no one knows what might happen tomorrow because everyone is in their darkest hour. On the moon, Rita starts to hear a voice while she is locked up, and that voice comes from Squat, who is with Babu. They are both trying to open the container and they want to do it fast before Lord Zed sees them. Squat explains to Rita that he managed to escape when Dark Spectre was distracted as he was injured and took advantage of all the confusion in the situation. Squat also tells Rita that if he manages to find her wand, then she can make an alliance with Lord Zed so that they can both defeat Dark Spectre now that he is vulnerable. Despite Squat's good intentions, Rita tells him that he is a fool because he is not understanding since she managed to guarantee Dark Spectre's victory with everything she had already done for him. In Safe Haven, Dark Spectre thinks that he will no longer be able to carry out his entire plan because Rita has betrayed him, and without her magic then he won't be able to complete everything. Despite this, Angel tells him that Rita is not the only one with knowledge about the grid, and for those who don't know who this little-known character is, this is what I was able to find out. In this same conversation they confirm that Angel is a human, but according to the information I managed to find, this character is Mr. Ashford, a villain who appeared in the Hyperforce comic. Angel asks Dark Spectre for permission to take care of the Rangers on Earth while he can focus on something more important. He then brings Tanya, the Yellow Ranger of the Zeo Rangers, so she can explain to him about the Void, a universe of another dimension with a planet full of Zeo crystals. This universe is slowly being destroyed and the Rangers cannot access their powers because the Morphin Master cut the connection to the grid. In Promethea, Trini goes to see Kia, who is locked up, and after a little discussion, Trini wants to find out Kia's real purpose in trying to steal the eggs. Basically, Kia's answer is that she needs them for something bigger than all this, and although Trini doesn't understand what could be more important than keeping the shield, Kia assures her that she has no choice. She then begins to explain that when she escaped Safe Haven, she tried to find other Rangers that were not infected, but no matter where she went, the Rangers were infected. In this part we can realize that Kia managed to see the Cosmic Fury Rangers and they also got infected. Kia says that the infection is everywhere, there is nowhere to escape to, so the best idea she had is that they need to explode the grid, and the only thing that can do that is eggs. Trini thinks Kia is crazy, but she tries to explain to him that Dark Spectre is winning and there are no other options. Billy was listening to this entire conversation and now he presents an idea to the other Rangers, although we don't know if he had this idea before listening to that conversation. Billy's idea is to use the two white power coins, Tommy's coin and Draken's coin that Ranger Slayer brought, to create a connection that can protect many Rangers at the same time, and with this they are going to be able to transform after the shield eventually deactivates. Unfortunately, what Kia did has accelerated the deactivation of the shield, and now the Rangers must make a decision quickly. The problem with this idea is that Tommy is going to be left unprotected since he won't be able to use his power currency, and this is what Kimberly is worried about. Another concern Ranger Slayer has is that there aren't enough Rangers to fight, but Morgan says they are going to have to create a new team. The shield starts to slowly disappear. Kimberly thinks it's a mistake not to have the strongest Ranger, and Ranger Slayer tells her that a team is stronger than one Ranger alone. Kimberly asks Tommy to speak since it is his currency, so Tommy says that he chooses every day to be a Ranger. He also says that every time he transforms, he remembers that it means the most important thing about who he is, but more important than that, it's protecting his team. In Promethea, Angel arrives with several soldiers as well as Adam and Rocky. With this it is confirmed that the shield has already fallen and now the Rangers can no longer transform. The Rangers don't know if they should fight without the transformation, but they all decide to fight back and never give up. Because they are not transformed, the Rangers are having a lot of trouble and are being defeated. After so many blows, Trini from Draken's dimension tells the Rangers to have faith and transform. 3 yellow Rangers from different teams and dimensions and 1 green Ranger transform to form the strangest team we have seen in a long time. The impressive thing is that they all managed to transform without getting infected, and Billy managed to activate the white power coins. Now all these Rangers have parts of the White Ranger suit, and now they are all protected by that same power. The Rangers can't believe what is happening, and at that very moment, Angel receives a strong attack from behind. Billy, Kimberly, Morgan, and Ranger Slayer arrive to help the other Rangers. Now that the entire team has been able to transform, the Rangers want to continue the battle, but Angel prefers to fight another day. At that moment Aisha uses Ranger Slayer's arrow to attack Adam and Rocky, but even though this looks bad, she actually did it with a purpose. Both Rangers begin to be sanitized by the white power and then lose their transformation. Apparently, both Rangers have been saved and are now no longer infected. Now the Rangers must find some way to be able to disinfect all the other Rangers that Dark Spectre has infected, but this is not so simple. The power coins do not have that much range, so they must find some way to trigger a pulse of pure grid energy. This would not simply disinfect a few Rangers, it would disinfect the entire Morphin grid. Morgan says that Morph is the most powerful thing to create that energy, but they must find some way to amplify that. Trini says that with this they could save the other Rangers, but it wouldn't be enough to expel Dark Spectre. Morgan mentions that the eggs can amplify the energy, but the Phantom Ranger says that the eggs are very unstable and could destroy the entire grid. Ranger Slayer mentions the Void, the place we talked about earlier, and she also says that the Solar Rangers live there. The idea is that they can use the planet that is made with Zeo Crystal to amplify the energy. If they can go there, then they have a chance. On the moon, Rita is still talking to Squat and tells him that there is a fine line between illusion and hope. After all this time, Rita finally learns to differentiate between the two and prefers to allow the Rangers to fight this battle. She finally tells Squat that she gives up, to take Babu with her, and both of them find a safe place since they are now free. The most interesting thing about this ending is that Rita is wearing a white dress, and this reminds us of Mystique Mother. In the Void, in an orphanage, there is a woman named Remy who was taking care of these orphan children to take them to another place because they were in the middle of an invasion. All the children were very scared, so Remy is going to tell them a story about heroes, villains, and triumphs. She starts telling them about the history of the Solar Rangers, and this story had happened a short time ago. The Void was a place that was dying and had been cut off from the Morphin grid, the most powerful energy source. There was an insane Morphin master named Creator who wanted to destroy this universe, and he knew that there was an artifact that could prevent this destruction, so he had to find it before others found it. This artifact is the Solarix, a device that the Morphin Masters used to cut the Morphin grid of this universe, but the artifact also had a hidden purpose. A beautiful woman named Ilarion arrived to protect the artifact and prevent it from falling into the hands of Creator. At the same time, she also discovered the secret of the Solarix, and that is that by using this device she could transform into a Power Ranger. For a long time, she fought to keep the Solarix safe and only had one real ally she trusted. Then came other Rangers who had been displaced from their dimensions and were looking for a way home. These Rangers became the Solar Rangers and formed a team to defeat Creator. After this, the Rangers had to go to their dimensions, so Ilarion, who they also call Ari, had to recruit some new Solar Rangers. Remy tells the kids that the Power Rangers always win, and then is interrupted by Maxie, who is the Yellow Ranger of the new team. Maxie tells Remy that it's time to leave, so Remy asks the kids to follow them, but he does it in a very cheerful way, so the kids won't be afraid. As they walk, Remy tells Maxie that he should talk to Salam, the Red Ranger, since they both like each other, and Maxie thinks it's not an appropriate time since they are in the middle of a war, but Remy thinks it's the best time. Meanwhile, we can see Ari, the Purple Ranger, Salam, the Red Ranger, and Tigan, the Blue Ranger, in the battle. All are fighting against the Dark Spectre soldiers, and this lets us know that the infection has also reached the Void. Then Maxie, the Yellow Ranger, joins the fight and Remy asks the kids to get on the ship. Shera, Remy's daughter, tells her mother that she is afraid, and Remy tells her that it is good to be afraid because it means you have things you don't want to lose. At that moment, two enemies go to attack Remy and Shera, but quickly Remy destroys them, and with this we can see that she is also a ranger. Remy is the Orange Ranger, and we can tell she is a great warrior. Now the Solar Rangers are reunited to protect these orphans, but there are still 3 Rangers missing from this team that we don't know what happened to them. On the way to the ship, we can see that there were still some enemies left, and Ari together with Remy make a great team to destroy them all. I should mention that I personally love Remy's costume, and it may possibly be one of the best costumes in the entire franchise. After this, Ari finds a toy on the ground and tells Salam that he hasn't found anything important. They talk about the infection and say that it has spread very fast, so the situation is very worrisome for everyone. Ari wants to know what has happened with the other Rangers, and Salam tells him that he hasn't heard from them since yesterday, but the Green Ranger had told him that because of all the Dark Spectre soldiers, the evacuation has taken longer than usual. Ari asks the Red Ranger to find all the Rangers, as they are now going to have to make some tough decisions. Now the Rangers are heading to a place called the Cistern Belt, where beings called the Elders live, and they are going to take in the orphans to care for them, as they are very grateful for the work the Solar Rangers have done. The Yellow and Red Rangers think that at that moment everything seems like a lost battle, since the infection is everywhere and they don't know which planet the villains are going to attack, so they must create a strategy. Ari explains that the Morphin Masters wanted to protect the planet that is made of Zeo Crystal, because if any enemy reaches that planet, then it could be the end of the Morphin grid. That is why the plan Ari suggests is that they should cut off the grid in the middle of the void so that the infection will stop, but the other Rangers think this is crazy since they have survived thanks to the grid. Later, Shera goes to talk to Ari, and in this conversation they confirm that Ari and Remy have a relationship, and both formed a family with Shera. Remy had asked Shera to stay with the other children on the other planet because it will be dangerous for her. Upon arriving on the planet Cistern Belt, everyone starts to get off the ship, and Remy and Ari go off alone to have a conversation. Ari mentions something important, and that is that the Solar Rangers now have their own morpher and no longer need the Solarics, plus they have previously survived without the Morphin grid. Ari is very worried as she doesn't want to lose Remy and Shera, but Remy reminds her that now she doesn't have to carry all this burden alone. Remy keeps reminding her that Rangers always help each other, and the two begin to have an intimate moment, but at that moment a big explosion is heard. A ship landed on the planet, and to everyone's surprise the one who had arrived was Dane, one of the villains who is serving Dark Spectre. This fearsome villain arrived with many soldiers, but he also arrived accompanied by the other missing Rangers who were obviously infected. Because Ari and Remy were elsewhere chatting, the Yellow, Blue, and Red Rangers were alone. Dane was a little disappointed as the other Rangers had told him that the leader was the Purple Ranger, but he also said that any Ranger was fine and now he is going to infect them. Ari and Remy run to help the other Rangers, and it's a little late because the battle has begun. Dane and the Pink Ranger go to attack the Blue Ranger, but at that moment, they receive a strong blow from Ari's weapon. The team leader has arrived, and Dane says that Ranger Slayer had told him a lot about her, but now it's time for her to surrender. Ari asks the Blue Ranger to help Remy get all the civilians onto the ship, and Dane doesn't mind this as he wants to have a big battle. After this there is just a narration from Ari about what she thinks of this whole situation as we see the outcome of this whole battle. Ari mentions that Remy had once told her that hope was what saved this universe, but Ari thinks that actually what helped her to move on was the love she feels for Remy, and without it there was no way to save the universe. As Ari says all this, we can see that Remy was not transformed as she was trying to help the children, and when she tries to transform, she gets infected. Many managed to escape, although many were injured, including the Red Ranger, who also has a relationship with the Yellow Ranger. Meanwhile, Ari's narration continues, which says that Remy was her hope and without her she now feels empty, but at that moment, we can also see that a ship has teleported to this universe. We can see that Ari is very upset and says that this universe has already been invaded, so now she must protect it in any way. She says that she has no choice, now she has no hope and is going to have to do what Creator did. Ari's plan is to cut the grid of this universe, and we see something that confuses us a lot, but maybe it has some explanation. Ari has arrested Ranger Slayer, and although we all know now that she wants to save the universe, Ari maybe thinks that Ranger Slayer is still working with Dane because of what he had told her in the battle. In the Bermuda Triangle, Billy has just woken up after getting some sleep, although he has actually only slept 6 hours in 3 days. Because of this, Billy has been seeing and hearing Grace's image. Previously, Billy had already been seeing Grace's presence, but this time it is because he has not had enough rest and his subconscious is talking to him in this way. Grace keeps telling him that he should rest as he is too young, but Billy refuses as he feels he needs to find a solution for all the problems they are experiencing because of Dark Spectre. Unfortunately, Morgan and the Phantom Ranger had to disconnect the eggs as they were too unstable after Kia tried to steal them and Ranger Slayer crossed the Master Arch. The problem they have now is that if they connect only one of the eggs, then they could break both eggs because it would not resist the shield. Because of this, Morgan offers his energem for them to use as an energy source to create the shield. Billy doesn't want to use the energem since he doesn't want to lose any more Rangers, but Morgan is willing to do whatever it takes to get a few extra days with shield. Meanwhile, the Phantom Ranger and Morgan leave to talk to Zordon and continue looking for other alternatives. Before leaving, she asks Billy to go get some rest, and after Billy refused, she then tells him to go see his friends Adam and Rocky. At Angel Grove, as Billy heads off to see his friends, Grace tells him that he seems to be feeling guilty, but Billy clarifies that he's just feeling stressed. In conversation they make it clear to us that Adam and Rocky have not been able to see their families as they are still feeling the side effects of the Dark Spectre infection, and it is going to take time for them to get back to normal. Tommy, Adam and Rocky move to another location as they were not comfortable in Promethea, and at that moment, a person is heard screaming. Rocky was desperate due to the fact that his family was trying to communicate with him through a video call and Rocky did not want to answer them. Because of this, Tommy asks Billy to leave since Adam and Rocky were not yet ready to see other people and this change was going to take a little more time. Billy wants to help in this situation, but Tommy tells him that he just needs a little more time, and this is precisely what Billy plans to get. After this, he arrives at Promethea to talk to Kia as he wants to know the reasons why she was going to destroy the eggs. She replies that she wanted to break the Morphin grid, and although Billy thinks she may have wanted to destroy the universe, she really just wanted to break the grid. Kia says that she already got her revenge since Draken died and that's enough, but acknowledges that after Rita infected the grid with her dark magic, all was lost. Kia explains that the grid is connected to all life, so that infection is going to consume everything and it's only a matter of time. Billy realizes that Kia was talking about the shattered grid, and Grace tells him that there are other people who might be able to give him the information he is looking for. After this, Kia realizes that no one had told Billy what had happened at that moment when Lord Draken destroyed everything, and this infuriates Billy quite a bit. Kia told Billy everything Lord Draken did, the times he traveled to different dimensions and ended Tommy's life in all those dimensions. She also told him about the way Draken attacked all the Rangers to steal all the power of the Morphin grid to become a god. Because of all that mess, the grid protected itself and shattered. Billy tries to get Jason to answer him why he had not been told, but Jason tells him that the blue emissary had asked him not to tell anyone. Despite this, Billy feels such important information as that, they had to share it with him. Billy explains to Jason that the grid is now protecting itself and has started to isolate some infected pockets so that the other parts are not affected. Billy plans to do something disastrous and Jason quickly realizes what he wants to do. Apparently, Billy wants to destroy the grid or something similar, as Jason tells him that after the shattered grid they had to recreate existence and not everything was the same as before. Despite this warning, Billy tells him that if they lose the shield, then they are going to have to do the same plan anyway. Jason tells him that they need to come up with another plan, and at that moment, Taylor arrives to find out if everything was okay. After this terrible conversation, Billy goes to a park so he can think better, and Grace tries to talk to him. Billy tells her that he understands that she is his subconscious controlling guilt, paranoia, and exhaustion, and he is already comfortable with her presence. Despite this, he doesn't understand how her experience of trying to be a Power Ranger can be different from his experience. At first, Billy didn't understand the reason why Grace kept the green dagger, but then he was able to understand that she did it because she was willing to protect everyone from not having to make the hard choices. After this, Billy thanks her and then says goodbye to her. Now Billy tells his whole plan to the Trini from the other dimension and asks for her help to be able to execute this very complicated plan. Although Trini trusts Billy, she is still not sure if this is the best decision, and so she keeps asking Billy questions. The Blue Ranger only replies that he has already made the decision, and this is not about being right or wrong, it is about survival. After this, they both go in search of Kia and give him her morpher to help them in this complicated mission. Kia tries to look confused, but Billy tells her that she knows exactly why they are there. Later, Billy meets with Morgan and the Phantom Ranger, both of whom tell him that they have found a way to have a little more hope. While this conversation is going on, we also see footage of the training of the other Rangers, who are visited by Trini and Kia. Morgan and the Phantom Ranger explain to Billy that they can use the same fundamentals of magic that keep Zordon locked up in order to extend the lifespan of the eggs. Meanwhile, Trini and Kia attack the Rangers and neither understands what is happening. Morgan explains to Billy that the new plan can get them a few extra days, but this doesn't convince the Blue Ranger. Because of this, Billy asks Morgan to let him observe the energem, and after she gives it to him, Billy thanks her with a very cloudy face, asking for forgiveness. After this, he shoots the Phantom Ranger in the chest to create a short circuit that will leave him paralyzed for several minutes, which gives him enough time to execute the plan. In the other battle, Trini and Kia have managed to defeat the other Rangers, and now Billy will be able to achieve what he wants. Morgan can't believe what is happening and asks Billy to stop so he can look for another alternative. Billy tells him that he has tried to think of other alternatives, but this is the only way to save the universe. Morgan tries to block the way, but Billy points the blaster at him and tells him that this is his universe, his family, and he's going to do whatever it takes to preserve it. Trini and Kia knock the other Rangers unconscious and continue to analyze if this is the best decision. Then they find the bodies of Morgan and the Phantom Ranger, and Kia says that she must remember to never make Billy angry. Now we can see that Billy has used the energem to fill his spear with power and is ready to execute the plan. For the last time, Trini asks Billy again if he is sure he wants to do this, and he says he is not sure, but this is the only way. In this image we can see all the power coming from the spear, and we don't know if Billy used the powers of the other Rangers to accomplish this. Then the Blue Ranger proceeds to crush the eggs with his spear, and this creates an explosion of energy.